The night his world was falling apart, she appeared with takeout and a plan that would teach him the most important lesson of his life. The clock on the wall showed 11:47 p.m. Alex stared at the numbers, wondering where the entire day had gone. His small dorm room felt like a prison cell filled with textbooks, empty pizza boxes, and crumpled papers. The economics final was in 3 days, and he felt like he knew nothing at all. His desk lamp cast a harsh yellow light across pages of notes that looked like chicken scratches. Alex rubbed his tired eyes and tried to focus on the supply and demand. Curves again. The numbers and graphs seemed to dance around on the page, making no sense whatsoever. He had been sitting in the same spot for nearly 8 hours straight. The dorm hallway outside was unusually quiet for a Thursday night. Most students were either sleeping or cramming for their own finals. Alex could hear the faint sound of someone typing frantically in the room next door. At least he wasn't the only one suffering through this nightmare week. He picked up his phone and saw 17 missed messages in the group chat. His friends were complaining about their own exams, sharing memes about college stress, and making plans for after finals week. Alex scrolled through them but didn't have the energy to reply. Everything felt overwhelming lately. 3 empty coffee cups sat on his windowsill like trophies of his desperation. His stomach growled loudly, reminding him that he had only eaten a granola bar and some crackers since morning. The thought of walking to the cafeteria, or even the vending machine downstairs, felt like climbing Mount Everest. Alex pushed back from his desk and stretched his aching neck. His roommate Jake had gone home for the week, leaving him completely alone with his thoughts and his panic. The silence in the room was deafening. Sometimes he caught himself talking to his textbooks just to hear a human voice, even if it was his own. The pressure wasn't just about this one exam. Senior year had been a roller coaster of stress from day one. Job applications, interviews that went nowhere, student loan payments looming in the future, and the constant question from relatives about his post-graduation plans. Everyone seemed to expect him to have his entire life figured out, but most days he could barely figure out what to eat for lunch. His parents called every other day asking about his grades and job prospects. They had worked double shifts at their restaurant to pay for his college education. The weight of their sacrifices pressed down on his shoulders like a heavy backpack that he could never take off. He couldn't disappoint them. He wouldn't disappoint them. Alex looked at his reflection in the dark window. His hair was messy, his eyes had dark circles underneath, and his favorite hoodie had coffee stains on it. When was the last time he had taken a proper shower? When was the last time he had talked to someone face to face instead of through a screen? The textbook pages felt rough under his fingers as he flipped through chapter 12 for the 100th time. Macroeconomics had never been his strong subject, but it was required for his business degree. Every formula looked like a foreign language, and every example problem felt like solving a mystery without any clues. His phone buzzed with a text from his girlfriend Lisa. "Hey, how's studying going? Haven't heard from you in 3 days." Alex stared at the message for a full minute. 3 days? Had it really been that long since they had talked? He started typing a response several times but kept deleting it. What could he say? That he was falling apart? That he felt like a complete failure? That he missed her but was too stressed to be good company? The fluorescent light above his desk flickered and made an annoying buzzing sound. Alex had been meaning to report it to maintenance for weeks, but he kept forgetting. Everything in his life felt broken or breaking down, including himself. He stood up and walked to his mini fridge, hoping to find something edible inside. A half-empty bottle of water, some leftover Chinese takeout that looked questionable, and a yogurt that expired 2 days ago. His stomach growled again, but nothing looked appealing. Stress had a way of stealing his appetite while simultaneously making him feel weak from hunger. The building's heating system kicked in with a loud clank, making Alex jump slightly. His nerves were completely shot. Every small sound felt amplified. Every interruption felt like the end of the world. He had always been a calm person, but college had pushed him to his breaking point. Alex sat back down at his desk and opened his notebook to a fresh page. Maybe making a study schedule would help. He wrote down Economics Final Day 1 at the top of the page, then stared at the blank space below it. Where should he even start? The material felt infinite, and time felt impossibly short. His phone showed several missed calls from his mom. She probably wanted to check on him and remind him to eat vegetables and get enough sleep. The irony wasn't lost on him. He couldn't even remember the last time he had eaten a vegetable or slept for more than 4 hours straight. The digital clock on his laptop changed to 11:58 p.m. Another day was almost over, and he felt like he had accomplished nothing useful. Tomorrow would bring the same panic, the same confusion, and the same feeling of drowning in responsibilities that felt too big for his shoulders. Alex put his head down on his arms and closed his eyes for just a moment. Maybe a quick break would help clear his mind. The desk felt cool against his forehead, and for the first time all day his racing thoughts began to slow down slightly. That's when he heard the soft click of his door opening. Alex lifted his head slowly from his arms, blinking in confusion. The door was opening wider, and he could see a familiar silhouette against the hallway light. His heart jumped as he recognized Lisa stepping inside, carrying what looked like a large paper bag and a small backpack. She moved quietly, closing the door behind her with a soft click. Alex sat up straight, wondering if his exhausted mind was playing tricks on him. Lisa wasn't supposed to be here. She had her own finals to worry about, her own stress to deal with. Yet here she was, standing in his messy room at midnight, wearing that playful smile he had fallen in love with 2 years ago. "Surprise," she whispered, setting the bag down on his bed. "Before you ask, yes, I got the spare key from Jake. And before you worry, I already finished my sociology exam this afternoon." Alex rubbed his eyes again, making sure he wasn't dreaming. "Lisa, what are you doing here? It's almost midnight, and you have that big presentation tomorrow morning." She walked over to his chair and gently pushed him back so she could see his face properly. Her expression shifted from playful to concerned as she took in his appearance. "Look at yourself. Alex, when was the last time you ate something real? When did you last sleep more than 3 hours?" He opened his mouth to answer but realized he couldn't remember. The past few days had blended together into one long nightmare of coffee, textbooks, and panic. Lisa reached out and touched his cheek, softly, her fingers cool against his warm skin. "That's what I thought," she said, shaking her head. "I've been texting you for 3 days. 3 days, Alex. Your friends are worried about you. Even your mom called me asking if you were okay because you haven't been answering her calls." Alex felt a wave of guilt wash over him. He had been so focused on his own problems that he had completely shut out everyone who cared about him. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to worry anyone. I can't seem to get anything right lately. This economics exam is going to destroy me." Lisa pulled his desk chair closer and sat down facing him. "Do you remember what you told me when I had those panic attacks during sophomore year? When I thought I was going to fail organic chemistry and my whole pre-med dream would be over?" He thought back to those difficult weeks when Lisa would call him crying at 2 in the morning, convinced that her future was ruined. "I told you that you were stronger than you knew, and that one exam doesn't define your entire life." "Exactly," she said, reaching into the paper bag. "And I told you that I was fine, that I could handle everything alone, that you didn't need to worry about me. Do you remember what you said to that?" Alex smiled slightly, the first real smile he had managed in days. "I said that was complete nonsense and that letting people help you isn't giving up." The smell that emerged from the bag made his stomach growl loudly. Thai food. Not just any Thai food, but from that little place off campus that made the best pad Thai in town. The same place they had gone for their first official date, where Lisa had laughed so hard at his terrible jokes that she snorted her drink. "I figured you'd been living on vending machine food and whatever expired stuff was in your fridge," she said, unpacking several containers. "Am I right?" Alex looked over at his mini fridge and the empty chip bags scattered around his room. "You might be onto something there." Lisa continued pulling items from the bag. Spring rolls, pad Thai with extra peanuts just the way he liked it, mango sticky rice for dessert, and even a large Thai iced tea. She had remembered every single one of his favorites. "How did you even get all this? The restaurant closes at 10. "I may have called them this afternoon and asked if they could make a special late delivery," she said with a mischievous grin. Mrs. Chen remembers us from when we used to go there every Friday. She said any girlfriend who drives across town at midnight to bring food to her stressed boyfriend deserves extra spring rolls. Alex felt his throat tighten with emotion. While he had been drowning in his own self-pity, Lisa had been thinking about him, planning the surprise, going out of her way to take care of him. He didn't deserve this kind of kindness. "You didn't have to do all this," he said quietly. "You have your own stuff to worry about." Lisa opened the pad thai container and handed him a pair of chopsticks. "Yes, I did have to do this." "Do you want to know why?" She moved to sit on his bed, patting the space next to her. Alex got up from his desk chair, his legs stiff from sitting in the same position for hours. The bed felt incredibly soft compared to his hard wooden chair. "Because 2 years ago, a really sweet guy noticed that I was falling apart during finals week," Lisa continued, opening her own container of food. "He showed up at my dorm with hot chocolate and those terrible jokes of his, and he stayed up all night helping me make flashcards for my chemistry exam." Alex remembered that night clearly. Lisa had been convinced she was going to fail, just like he felt now. Her room had been even messier than his current situation, with papers everywhere and empty coffee cups covering every surface. "That was different," Alex said, taking his first bite of pad thai. The flavors exploded in his mouth, reminding him how hungry he actually was. "You were actually smart. You just needed to organize your thoughts. I genuinely don't understand any of this economic stuff." "Stop right there," Lisa said firmly, pointing her chopsticks at him. "I don't want to hear you talk about yourself that way. You're the same person who helped me understand statistics when I thought my brain was broken. You're the same person who got a B+ in calculus, which, by the way, I couldn't even pass." They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Alex felt warmth spreading through his chest, and it wasn't just from the spicy food. For the first time in days, his mind felt quiet. The constant noise of worry and panic had been replaced by the simple pleasure of sharing a meal with someone who cared about him. Lisa reached into her backpack and pulled out a change of clothes. "I'm staying tonight, by the way. Already cleared it with my roommate. We're going to eat this food, you're going to take a shower that lasts longer than 2 minutes, and then we're both going to get a full night's sleep. But my studying will be much more effective tomorrow when you're not running on fumes and pure anxiety," she finished. "Trust me on this one." After Alex returned from his shower, feeling more human than he had in days, he found Lisa had completely transformed his chaotic room. The empty food containers were gone, his textbooks were stacked neatly on his desk, and she had even made his bed with fresh sheets she had brought from her own room. "Much better," she said, looking him up and down approvingly. "You actually look like the Alex I know instead of some zombie who's been living in a library basement." He sat down on the bed beside her, his damp hair still dripping slightly. The hot shower had washed away more than just the grime of 3 days. Some of the tension in his shoulders had melted away too. "I didn't realize how badly I needed that. I've been so focused on cramming information into my brain that I forgot to take care of the rest of me." Lisa tucked her legs under herself and turned to face him completely. "Okay, now we're going to talk. And I mean really talk, not just you telling me you're fine when you're obviously not fine." Alex looked down at his hands, suddenly finding his fingernails very interesting. "I don't know where to start. Everything feels like it's falling apart at once." "Start anywhere," she said gently. "What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about why you've been hiding in this room for 3 days? The words came out in a rush, like water breaking through a dam. "I'm terrified that I'm going to graduate and have absolutely nothing to show for it. I've been to 12 job interviews in the past 2 months, and I haven't gotten a single offer. Not even a callback. My parents keep asking about my plans, and I don't have any plans. I don't even know what I want to do with my life." Lisa listened without interrupting, her expression patient and understanding. When he paused, she didn't immediately try to fix everything or tell him he was wrong to feel scared. "Keep going," she said softly. "And this economics exam feels like the final test of whether I actually learned anything in college or if I just wasted 4 years and my parents' money. They worked so hard to send me here, Lisa. My dad still works 60-hour weeks at the factory, and my mom took that second job at the grocery store just to help pay for my textbooks. How can I face them if I graduate with terrible grades and no job prospects? Alex felt his chest tightening as he spoke. These were the thoughts that had been circling his mind like vultures for weeks, but saying them out loud made them feel both more real and somehow less overwhelming at the same time. I keep thinking about how confident I was as a freshman, he continued. I had this whole plan mapped out. Graduate with honors, land an amazing job right away, make my parents proud, prove that their sacrifices were worth it. Now I'm 3 days away from graduation and I feel like I know less than when I started. Lisa reached over and took his hand. Her fingers were warm and steady, anchoring him to the present moment instead of letting him spiral further into his fears. Can I tell you something? She asked. When I was having those panic attacks sophomore year, I felt exactly the same way. I was convinced that I was the only person in our entire class who didn't have everything figured out. Everyone else seemed so confident, so sure of their paths. Alex looked up at her, surprised. Lisa had always seemed like she had everything under control, even during her most stressed moments. But here's what I learned, she continued. Most of us are just really good at pretending we know what we're doing. Do you remember Kevin from our chemistry study group? The one who always seemed so calm and prepared? Yeah, he always had color-coded notes and never seemed stressed about anything. I ran into him at the coffee shop last week. He told me that junior year he was so anxious about medical school that he barely slept for 2 months. He said he spent most of that time convinced he was going to fail out of college entirely. Alex found this hard to believe. Kevin had graduated summa cum laude and was now in his 2nd year of medical school at a prestigious university. And Rebecca from your economics study group last semester? Lisa continued. She changed her major 3 times before settling on business. She told me she still doesn't know if she made the right choice, but she's doing really well at her new job downtown. But they all seemed so sure of themselves. That's exactly my point, Lisa said. We're all just figuring it out as we go along. The difference is that some people are better at hiding their uncertainty than others. Alex felt something shift in his chest, like a knot slowly beginning to untangle. So you're saying it's normal to feel completely lost right before graduation? I'm saying it's normal to feel lost, period. At any point in life. The people who seem to have it all figured out are usually just better actors. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Alex could hear the heating system cycling on and off, and somewhere down the hall, another student was playing music, very quietly. The sounds that had felt intrusive and distracting earlier now felt comforting, reminders that he wasn't alone in this building or in his struggles. What about the job thing? He asked. 12 rejections feels pretty definitive. Lisa squeezed his hand. 12 rejections means you applied to 12 places and they weren't the right fit. It doesn't mean you're unemployable or that you'll never find anything. Do you know how many applications my sister sent out before she got her teaching job? 47. And now she loves what she does. 47? Alex couldn't imagine maintaining hope after that many rejections. The job market is tough right now for everyone. It's not a reflection of your worth or your qualifications. Sometimes timing matters more than anything else. Alex realized that he had been carrying these fears alone for so long that they had grown much larger in his mind than they needed to be. Sharing them with Lisa didn't make the problems disappear, but it made them feel manageable instead of impossible. And about your parents, Lisa continued. They didn't sacrifice so much money and time just for you to graduate with perfect grades and land a dream job immediately. They did it because they believe in you and they want you to have opportunities they didn't have. But what if I disappoint them? Have you ever asked them what would actually disappoint them? She asked, because I bet it's not failing an economics exam or taking a few months to find the right job. Alex thought about his parents and how they had always been more concerned with whether he was happy and healthy than with his grades or achievements. Even when he had gotten a C+ in statistics last year, his mom's first question had been whether he was getting enough sleep. You're right, he admitted. They've never put that kind of pressure on me. I've been putting it on myself. Exactly. And that pressure isn't helping you succeed. It's just making you miserable and preventing you from thinking clearly. Lisa got up and walked over to his desk. where his economics textbook lay open to the same page he had been staring at for hours. So here's what we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to make a realistic study plan that doesn't involve you sitting in this chair for 14 hours straight. We're going to break the material into smaller pieces that actually make sense. And we're going to take regular breaks so your brain can actually process the information instead of just bouncing off of it. Alex felt something he hadn't experienced in weeks. Hope. Not the desperate, frantic hope that he could somehow cram 4 months of learning into 3 days, but a calm, realistic hope that maybe he could actually understand enough to pass this exam. And after graduation, Lisa continued, we're going to celebrate the fact that you completed 4 years of college, which is an amazing accomplishment all by itself. Then we're going to figure out the next step together, without any artificial deadlines or pressure. The word together hit Alex right in the chest. He had been so focused on handling everything alone that he had forgotten he didn't have to. The next morning, Alex woke up feeling like a completely different person. For the first time in weeks, he had slept for 8 full hours without waking up in a panic about his to-do list. Lisa was already awake, sitting quietly at his desk with her own textbook open, reviewing notes for her presentation later that day. Good morning, sleepyhead, she said with a smile. I got us some real breakfast from the cafeteria. None of that vending machine stuff you've been surviving on. Alex sat up and saw 2 trays on his nightstand. Scrambled eggs, toast, fruit, and actual orange juice instead of the energy drinks that had become his main source of nutrition. His stomach rumbled appreciatively. How long have you been awake? He asked, checking his phone. It was only 7:30 in the morning. About an hour. I wanted to let you sleep, but I also needed to review my presentation one more time. She closed her textbook and moved to sit on the edge of the bed. I figured we could eat together, then I'll head to my exam, and you can start your new study routine. They ate breakfast while Lisa walked him through the schedule they had created the night before. Instead of marathon study sessions that left him exhausted and confused, they had broken everything into 2-hour blocks with real breaks in between. Each block focused on one specific topic rather than trying to absorb everything at once. Remember, Lisa said, finishing her orange juice, the goal isn't to learn everything perfectly. The goal is to understand enough to pass the exam and move on with your life. After Lisa left for her presentation, Alex looked at his desk with fresh eyes. The economics textbook that had seemed like his enemy for the past week now felt like just another challenge to work through. He opened to chapter 1 and started reading with actual focus instead of panic. The first study block went better than he had expected. Without the crushing weight of trying to learn everything at once, individual concepts started to make sense. Supply and demand curves that had looked like meaningless squiggles yesterday began to tell a story about how markets actually worked. When his phone timer went off after 2 hours, Alex was surprised at how quickly the time had passed. Following Lisa's advice, he got up from his desk, put on his shoes, and went for a walk around campus instead of immediately diving into the next chapter. The fresh air felt incredible after days of being trapped in his stuffy dorm room. Other students were walking between buildings, some looking as stressed as he had felt yesterday, others seeming relaxed and confident. Alex realized that Lisa had been right about everyone just figuring things out as they went along. He walked past the library where he had spent countless hours over the past 4 years, past the coffee shop where he and Lisa had their first study date, past the quad where they had eaten lunch together almost every day sophomore year. These places held so many good memories that had been overshadowed by his recent anxiety. When Alex returned to his room, he felt refreshed instead of guilty about taking time away from studying. He tackled the next chapter with renewed energy, and the concepts continued to click into place. By lunchtime, he had covered more material with better understanding than he had managed in the previous 3 days combined. Lisa texted him around noon. How's the new study plan working? My presentation went great, by the way. Alex smiled as he typed back. Actually understanding economics for the first time ever. Thanks for saving my life. You saved your own life, she replied. I just reminded you how to do it. The afternoon study session was just as productive. Alex found himself taking actual notes instead of just staring at pages, hoping the information would magically transfer to his brain. When concepts didn't make sense immediately, he didn't panic. Instead, he looked up examples online or found different explanations that clicked better with his learning style. Around 4 o'clock, his roommate Jake returned from his trip home. He walked into the room and stopped in surprise. "Dude, what happened in here? This place actually looks livable again." Alex looked around and realized that with Lisa's help, he had transformed his disaster zone back into a functional living space. "I guess I finally figured out that living like a zombie wasn't helping me study any better." Jake dropped his bag and sat on his own bed. "You look way better too. I was honestly worried about you before I left. You were starting to look like one of those people you see in movies who've been stranded on a desert island for months." They talked for a while about Jake's visit home and Alex's breakthrough with his study routine. It felt good to have a normal conversation about something other than his impending doom. Alex realized how much he had missed regular human interaction. That evening, Lisa returned with dinner from their favorite pizza place near campus. They ate while Alex explained the economics concepts he had learned that day. Teaching the material to someone else helped solidify his understanding even more. "Listen to yourself," Lisa said as he finished explaining market equilibrium. "You sound like someone who actually knows what he's talking about." "I'm starting to feel like maybe I do know some of this stuff," Alex admitted. "It's weird. Yesterday, I was convinced I was going to fail spectacularly, and today I actually feel prepared. That's what happens when you take care of yourself and approach things systematically instead of just panicking," Lisa said. "Your brain works much better when it's not running on pure stress hormones." They spent the evening reviewing together, with Lisa asking him questions to test his understanding. When he got stuck on something, they worked through it together instead of him getting frustrated and giving up. The collaborative approach made studying feel less isolating and more manageable. Around 10 o'clock, Lisa started packing up her things to head back to her own dorm. "I have my sociology final tomorrow morning, but I'll text you during your exam to send good luck wishes." Alex walked her to the door. "Thank you for everything. I know I keep saying that, but I really don't know what I would have done without you. You would have figured it out eventually," she said, giving him a hug. "You're stronger and smarter than you give yourself credit for. I just helped you remember that." After Lisa left, Alex spent another hour reviewing his notes one final time. Instead of the frantic cramming sessions of the past week, this felt like a calm review of material he actually understood. He went to bed at a reasonable hour, setting his alarm for 7 o'clock so he would have time for a proper breakfast before his exam. As he lay in bed, Alex reflected on how dramatically things had changed in just 24 hours. Lisa's surprise visit had been exactly what he needed. But more importantly, it had reminded him of tools and strategies he already possessed. He had just been too stressed and isolated to remember how to use them. The economics exam tomorrow still felt challenging, but it no longer felt impossible. Whether he got an A or a C, he would pass the class and graduate on schedule. His parents would be proud of him for completing his degree, regardless of his exact GPA. And eventually, he would find a job that was the right fit, even if it took longer than he had originally planned. For the first time in weeks, Alex fell asleep feeling calm instead of anxious about the future. The morning of the economics final arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze that felt like a good omen. Alex woke up naturally 5 minutes before his alarm, feeling rested and alert. His stomach had the normal butterflies that came with any important exam, but they felt manageable instead of overwhelming. He followed the morning routine he and Lisa had planned: a proper shower, a real breakfast from the cafeteria, and a quick review of his notes without trying to cram any new information. As he walked across campus toward the business building, Alex noticed details he had missed during his stress-filled weeks. Students were sitting on benches enjoying the warm weather. A campus maintenance worker was planting colorful flowers. Near the library and somewhere nearby, someone was playing guitar. The exam room buzzed with nervous energy as students filed in and found their seats. Alex recognized several classmates who looked as anxious as he had felt just 2 days ago. He wanted to tell them that everything would work out, that this one test wouldn't define their entire futures, but he knew they would have to discover that truth for themselves. Professor Williams handed out the exam booklets with her usual encouraging smile. "Remember, you've all worked hard this semester. Trust what you've learned and don't overthink the questions. Alex opened his booklet and read through the first few problems. To his amazement, he recognized every concept being tested. The supply and demand curves made perfect sense. The market analysis questions felt straightforward, and even the more complex macroeconomic scenarios seemed manageable. He worked through the exam methodically, taking his time to read each question carefully and organize his thoughts before writing. When he encountered a problem that stumped him initially, he didn't panic. Instead, he moved on to other questions and came back to it later with fresh eyes, just as Lisa had taught him to do with his study sessions. About halfway through the exam, Alex realized he was actually enjoying the process. The concepts he had struggled with for weeks were finally clicking together like pieces of a puzzle. He could see how different economic principles connected to each other and to real-world situations he had observed in his own life. 2 hours later, Alex finished his exam feeling confident but not overconfident. He had answered every question, to the best of his ability, and more importantly, he genuinely understood most of the material. Whether his final grade was an A or a B no longer mattered as much as the fact that he had overcome his panic and learned something valuable. As he walked out of the building, his phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "How did it go?" I'm thinking, "Good thoughts for you?" "Better than I ever imagined possible," he typed back. "Meet for lunch to celebrate?" "Absolutely. Same place as always?" Alex smiled and headed toward their favorite sandwich shop near the student center. The campus looked different somehow, brighter and more welcoming than it had during his weeks of stress and isolation. He felt like he was seeing everything through clearer eyes. Lisa was already waiting at their usual table when he arrived, and her face lit up when she saw his expression. "That's the face of someone who just conquered their biggest fear," she said, standing up to give him a hug. "I actually understood everything," Alex said, still somewhat amazed. "Not just memorized it, but really understood it. I could explain market failure to my grandmother if she asked." They ordered their food and spent lunch talking about their respective exams and their plans for the last few days before graduation. The conversation felt light and optimistic in a way that hadn't been possible when Alex was drowning in anxiety. "You know what I realized during the exam?" Alex said, taking a bite of his sandwich. "All that time I spent panicking could have been used actually learning the material. I made everything so much harder than it needed to be." "That's a lesson that goes way beyond economics class," Lisa replied. "How many other things in life do we make harder by getting overwhelmed instead of taking them step by step?" Over the following weeks, Alex applied this new perspective to his job search. Instead of sending out desperate applications to every posting he could find, he took time to research companies that genuinely interested him and craft thoughtful cover letters. He practiced interviewing with Lisa and his friends, treating each conversation as a learning experience rather than a pass or fail test. The change in his approach made all the difference. 3 weeks after graduation, Alex received a job offer from a marketing firm downtown. It wasn't his dream job, but it was a solid opportunity with room for growth, and the interview had felt like a genuine conversation rather than an interrogation. Graduation day arrived, with perfect weather, and all the ceremony that Alex's stressed-out self had been too anxious to anticipate. His parents drove up from their hometown, beaming with pride as they watched him walk across the stage. In the crowd of families and graduates, Alex spotted Lisa's bright yellow dress and her enthusiastic wave. During the reception afterward, Alex's dad pulled him aside for a private conversation. "You know, son, your mother and I have been worried about you these past few months. You seemed so stressed about everything." "I was pretty stressed," Alex admitted. "I kept thinking I had to have everything figured out perfectly or I'd be letting you and Mom down." His father laughed and clapped him on the shoulder. "Alex, the only thing that would disappoint us is if you stopped trying or if you became someone we didn't recognize. Everything else is just life happening. We're proud of you for finishing college, but we're even more proud of the kind person you've become." Later that evening, at the graduation party Lisa had organized, Alex found himself surrounded by friends and classmates who were all facing the same uncertainty about the future. Instead of feeling anxious about the unknown, He felt excited about the possibilities ahead. "Remember when you thought this economics exam was going to ruin your entire life?" Lisa said, finding him on the apartment balcony where he had stepped out for some quiet air. "That feels like it happened to a different person," Alex replied. "I can't believe I let myself get so worked up about something that ended up being completely manageable." "Well, you learned something important about yourself. When things get overwhelming, you don't have to handle everything alone. And when you take care of yourself and approach problems systematically, you're much more capable than you think." Alex looked at Lisa, struck again by how lucky he was to have someone who cared enough to show up when he needed help the most. "That night when you appeared in my room with Thai food and forced me to step back from my panic, that changed everything for me." "I just reminded you of what you already knew," she said. "You would have figured it out eventually." "Maybe. But you made sure I figured it out in time to actually enjoy my last few weeks of college instead of suffering through them." 6 months later, Alex was settling into his new job and discovering that many of his coworkers had their own stories about college stress and post-graduation anxiety. During lunch conversations, he found himself sharing Lisa's advice about taking challenges step by step and remembering that asking for help was a sign of wisdom, not weakness. One particularly difficult day at work, when Alex was feeling overwhelmed by a new project, he remembered that night in his dorm room when Lisa had appeared with her mischievous smile and her bags of Thai food. He took a break from his computer, called a colleague who had experience with similar projects, and approached the problem systematically instead of panicking. The project ended up being successful, and Alex realized that the lesson Lisa had taught him extended far beyond college exams. Life would continue to present challenges that felt overwhelming at first glance, but he now had tools for breaking them down into manageable pieces and reaching out for support when he needed it. That evening, Alex called Lisa to tell her about his day and to thank her once again for the lesson that kept giving him strength and clarity whenever life felt too complicated to handle alone.